Yes, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Bina. I think most of you would know me, but for those who don't, I am a lecturer with the Science and Math cluster. I've been lecturing for about 3.5 years with SUTD. My partner in crime is Julia, who is at a well-deserved break holiday with her family, so I'm going solo today, okay? For the introduction, I've decided to pick 3 things that has shaped my thoughts towards the use of virtual laboratories, and I found that they were actually mentioned by Dr. Tan, so that was making my job a lot easier. The first one, see if you can find it in this messy poster, okay? I always think that it's a good idea for us to take a step back and think about what the classroom will look like in 20 years, right? And so this is, in essence, what this poster is about. I'll slowly lead you to the point that I'm trying to make. The first one being that recent statistics shows that almost a third of all college students take at least one online course, and online enrollment saw a 21% growth, which is great. The other point is that currently games and gamification, 43% of teachers are already using games in the classroom, which is quite a high percent. And in one particular study, it was shown that games raised the average test scores from 79% to 91.5%, which is fantastic. Now, it's also been shown that 81% of teachers believe that tablets can enrich your teaching classroom learning, and similarly students feel the same, and 86% of students believe that they study more efficiently using tablets. Okay, but the point that I wanted to take out from this poster is over here. Right, the top 3 reasons for teachers to use technology. Okay, it's a point that was emphasized by Dr. Tan as well. Right, if you decide to use technology in your classroom, you should do it with a purpose, right? Don't use technology because you have to, because there's nothing else to do, because someone told you to do it, okay? Because the amount of time and effort to make this work, right, needs this to be highly impactful to learning. Right? So, and they found that the top 3 reasons why more and more teachers are using technology are as follows. The ability to adapt to diverse learning styles is shown to boost student motivation and somehow enhance the material being taught. Okay? So with this, we thought, okay, maybe technology is good in the classroom after all. Second point, reality of the situation, right? At SUTD, we do co-teaching, which means that if I have let's say an instructor who's leading, that means I'm going to be either walking around, in the middle or at the back. And the reality of the situation is, right, a large number of your students are disengaged, okay? And I don't blame them, right? I mean, there's so many things to do, right? You can, the main culprit to me is Facebook, but then there's Twitter, Instagram. Some of them are shopping for some reason in class and watching videos. 1 or 2 have been caught playing games as well, especially at the back. And so this is what we are facing. Now, you can choose, but to me, I see 2 different possible solutions, right? You can be strict and say, nope, I'm banning online material, I'm banning all this online activity. Everyone just shut your laptops, okay? And I'm going to be strict about it. Or you can choose the non-confrontative approach, which I like to take, okay? And decide to befriend this online environment, right? So how can we actually be more engaging than all of these apps out there, right? And that's where, and I mean engaging and not entertaining, okay? And that's where virtual laboratories come in, right? I was very inspired by this talk by Michael Bodiker, who I recommended to everyone who is interested in using VL in your science classroom or any other classroom. He throws a very good argument about why VL will revolutionize science class. So he is from Denmark. He's been an entrepreneur since he was 14 years old, and I think he's set up 4 or 5 companies, and he's currently working with a team led by some scientists to develop virtual lab simulations, right? And his collaborator actually published in this hallmark paper in Nature Biotechnology in 2014. Now, this was the first really good paper to be published that assessed the effectiveness of gamified simulations for biotech education, which is quite rare. Okay, and they have such a comprehensive and well-thought scientific design with control groups, which are a very large number of students, right? And he found in this study that a whopping 76% increase in learning outcomes using these simulations. Okay. Now, the other part of the study, even though I'm digressing a little, I couldn't help it, was it kind of investigated what the teacher's impact on learning was, right? Because some of us always have this fear. The more technology you create, the more you use in the classroom, the more obsolete you're making yourself, right? What will our roles be? And so they found that they use Z-score as a measure of learning effectiveness, so the higher the better. Lectures alone gave you a score of about 0.8. The virtual, this is the lab simulation, gave doubled that. And they found that combining VL with teacher-led coaching and mentoring resulted in a 101% increase. So rest assured, your jobs are safe, right? But you must accept and embrace a new role in the classroom. Okay, we're no longer standing in front teaching, we are facilitating this activity, right? And the students also who are not used to this system have to accept the role that they are now responsible for their learning. Okay, so with all this in mind, we thought, okay, right, there is substantive evidence for VL to actually be useful for teaching biology. Now, I'll let you read this, but the gist of that is when you do, those who are familiar with biology experiments, right, to actually carry them out to one that favorable outcome for every group in every of your class or every of your cohort, it's very difficult. Okay, most experiments, require overnight incubations, optimization of parameters, and so this VL can actually help save you time, effort, cost, and safety is another issue, right? So with that, we thought, okay, we're going to give this a shot, and we tried it out in our Introduction to Biology course, which is a freshman course, so for undergraduate level, right? And I'm not going to go through this, but this course basically touches on key concepts in cellular biology and genetics. It is a half-term subject from weeks 8 to week 14, and students are expected to spend about 12 hours per week on it. Okay, which is quite intense, and this 12 hours is broken down into the first hour is flipped, where they do it, before class, and then they have the first cohort class, followed by we still keep one physical lecture, and the second cohort class. So the VL activities will be carried out in either one of these cohort classrooms, okay, which is a 2.5 hour period. So when we were developing this curriculum, we were very lucky, right? We were introduced, because of our collaboration with MIT, to Dr. Lourdes Ailman, who at that time was fine-tuning these particular activities, starting with STAR, which are virtual experimental simulation tools. And so she told us, would you like to give it a try? And we're like, yeah, sure, because it actually fits very nicely into our content, right? And it does fill a certain gap for us. So in this particular experiment, the students are expected to go through all of these 7 steps in experimental design, and they can carry out various techniques. I will just show you actually what it looks like. Let's see if it works. Okay, so this one is the microscopy technique. Basically, I've chosen the samples, the treatments that I want to see, and if I were to click on the respective treatments, I can actually see this. And this is the microscopy control. So it feels very real, right? So whatever treatment you want, you can actually shift around your slide, look for your cell, and so it's really like using an actual microscope, right? So that's one of the techniques. Okay, we're short of time, so I will just rush through that. Okay, so that's the STAR cell bio, and this is just an example, a screenshot of the worksheet that comes together with the activity. So students are expected to fill up a certain worksheet with their data, generate it, and then come up with points about them. Okay, don't have to read all of that. The other STAR activity is STAR genetics. This is a cross simulator. Now this one is very fun, actually, to me, because we can actually mate. You can choose any fruit fly you want to mate, okay? And then click mate, and voila, you get all of your progeny, which is your children, right? You can choose, you want 10, 20, 50, 200 children, right? And you know, in reality, if you were to do this in the lab, it means I have to be breeding these, you know, these flies, and then waiting for 2 weeks for the progeny and hoping that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, okay? And so then the students get to score these, right? For those who are non-bio majors, scoring means we have to look at, is it red eyes, green eyes, curly wings, straight wings, gray body, brown body. And all of this data generated actually will help them to understand certain concepts in genetics, okay? And this is again, you know, they have a worksheet that they will fill up. And the one approach that has worked for our activities is the guided followed by independent. So we find that if the first half of the class, the first hour, for example, we actually guide them through the activity, explain the aim, the rationale behind it, and then the second half of the class, they do maybe the last question by themselves, which is more independent. It works well with this batch of freshman students, okay? So then we use the survey tool using in Blackboard, and we put in a feedback, hopefully for the students to put in their feedback, which was 6 MCQs and 1 open-ended questions, okay? So these were the results. So we were lucky, we got 228 students who responded out of about 450, usually around there. And most of them, if you'll see, agree or strongly agree with the points that were raised. So I increased knowledge and understanding of biological concepts. I learned about experimental design. They all agree, mainly the majority. I learned how to carry out experiments. I learned about how to analyze data generated by techniques, which was the aim of this virtual lab activity. The virtual labs made me think, thankfully, they were thinking, and they, in general, majority like to participate in virtual lab, right? So this was quite positive. Then the open-ended question, we had about 163 students responding, which is quite a lot because you'll find that it's hard to get students to provide feedback, okay? And the question was, did you find the VL simulations helpful? How did they help you? And if they were not helpful, what can be done, right? So we were actually quite surprised. We had 99 positive comments, right? Only 27 negative comments. And then we had a group, 37 of them, that have both positive and negative comments in their feedback, right? And this is a thumbs up, as Mr. Bean is showing, okay? I'm going to give you some examples of what the positive comments were. So students commented that this is a cut and paste from the students directly, so I didn't improve their English, okay? The virtual labs are more engaging, and they like how, you know, they can apply what they learn and analyze the experimental data. One of them was happy that they could repeat the steps multiple times as needed to understand the concept. And I like this one in particular because it didn't occur to me that it allows us to do the experiment without being in labs, and everyone can observe the result, right? So basically he wants to enjoy his individual observation, and VL helped him do that. The other thing, they recognize that there is, you know, limited resources and time was saved. Students see clearly the relationship between input and output dynamically, okay, instead of just an example. And it helped in understanding the data rather than seeing the results in a worksheet, which is all of our intended our intentions, right? So the negative results were directed not at VL, we found, but more of the worksheet that came with VL, right? So our students didn't like the wordy worksheets and found it a bit confusing and needs it to be more concise. So if you see, the MIT-style worksheets are very wordy, right? But that's the way, yeah. So our students were challenged to read so many words, and so we are working on this. And some of them felt that there was a time constraint. They didn't get to understand or, you know, it moved along too quickly. And of course, there will always be a group who prefers the actual physical lab activity, right? So this was the negative comments. So in conclusion, The student gains are promising, and they were involved in VL learning experiences. I put up this comment here because, for once when we walk around in class, well, maybe not all, I'm not delusional, majority of the students were engaged on their laptops, actually doing this activity, and nobody checked Facebook. Okay, so yes, Facebook is my greatest enemy. And we, as instructors, we also realize, there's teaching these things or becoming a facilitator is different. And we have to, like I said, accept and embrace this and do it, to our best ability. And something that Dr. Tan said as well, that we have to be very clear about how this piece of technology can actually help you in the classroom and significantly impact your learning outcome before you decide to use it. So it has to be carefully thought of. Yeah. So future work, we're actually trying to make our own exercises now using the MIT's assignment builder. We have 2 Europe students who are helping us do this. Hopefully it'll be ready for term 3, I'm not sure. I'm also hoping to make this a more mixed methods, meaning currently the feedback is, student feedback, which is more of, comments. Not sure how to include a quantitative assessment, so this is something we are thinking about for future publications, okay? And what I presented today is virtual labs, right? But so it's not virtual reality labs. So there is a difference, right? And together with a colleague, we're actually thinking about how can we move it along even more into the virtual reality lab. And we found one, an award-winning virtual reality lab, Labster by MIT, which okay, so the problem with us is our content is very unique, right? It is co-developed with MIT. And so when we search for activities online, they're usually not aligned with our content. But so we managed to find one that was actually touching on all the techniques that we were teaching in class. And so this might actually work, and we're working to see, we're talking to see how this can happen, right? So with that, I'd like to thank my awesome team of Introduction to Biology, all the students who participated and provided meaningful student feedback who are not here today, and the funding support from the grant. So thank you very much. We're taking questions? Oh.
So any questions for Bina? In view of time, probably we can only take about a question while Sergey sets up his slides. Any questions?
My presentation was so clear. Yes.
So in your opinion right now, because about 90% of students, based on the first question, didn't have the true bio background.
Yes.
As a H1 or H2 level.
Yes.
How do you feel this? Does it help them? Do they have?
Yes, so that is a very good point. Our freshmores majority non-biology major, which means that the last time they did biology is probably in Sec 2, right? And we feel that actually these activities, they will feel, they'll be engaged and will definitely help them in learning the content better as well. But we will have to prove this, right? Yeah, so. Yes. I'll talk to you about it later. It's a lot of effort, yes, because we have to come up with the way we do it is come up with a paper tutorial version, right? And this paper tutorial, once you have the questions, the scenario, the story that you want, and then you'll have to look for actual data from journals that you can put into these papers, and then we can shift that to the assignment builder. So it is, maybe half a year if you're committed to, to doing it, yes. If you're teaching at the same time, yes.